There aren't many watches that make just as much sense as your first serious watch as they do your 50th. But I think the Speedmaster might be the best example of this. It's time for new arrivals. Let's get into it. Before we get into the watches, one quick note, because things look a little different around here. Watch collecting is now collecting.com. If you're familiar with us, we've got a new name and a new site address, but most importantly, watches are still at the heart of what we do. It's the same curated platform, the same 7-day auctions, and the same team behind every sale. And of course, it's still 0% seller fees. Right, let's get into the watches. And we're starting with this Omega Speedmaster Professional. This is the reference 105.012. Thousands of videos have been made about the Speedy, and we all know the Moonwatch story, so I don't want to spend too long going back over old ground. But what I always like to come back to when I'm talking about the Speedmaster is just how timeless this watch is. The 105.012 is an important reference because this is where we get the asymmetric case with protection for the crown and pushers, along with the professional name on the dial. Underneath is the legendary caliber 321. And this Speedmaster forms the story around Apollo 11. In other words, it's the basic blueprint for the Moonwatch Omega still makes today. And I think that explains why the Speedmaster almost sits outside of the normal hierarchy of collecting. You could buy one as your first proper watch and never feel like you've made the obvious choice. But equally, you could have a box full of complicated Pateks, vintage Rolexes, rare independents, but the Speedy still makes complete sense sitting alongside all of those. This particular example has clearly lived a life. For some vintage collectors, absolute originality and perfect condition means everything. But for others, there's something appealing about an early caliber 321 Speedmaster that you can just simply put on and enjoy. Either way, 60 years later, the design still feels relevant and it's still gonna look perfect in another 100 years. Next up, something considerably more modern. This is the latest release from Tudor's collab with the Visa Cash App Racing Bulls Formula One team. This is the Black Bay Chrono Carbon 26. Tudor returned to Formula One with the team in 2024. And one of the first hints of where the partnership might go came from those blue-dialed Black Bay ceramics worn by the drivers. Since then, they've really leaned into the collaboration, and this is the latest release. I think it's also worth mentioning that the Black Bay Chrono has become Tudor's hottest model. We've had the pink, the flamingo blue, and more recently, we have the 39mm yellow dial Bumblebee. And we recently did a review on that, which we'll link to above. Watch brands collaborating with Formula One teams is hardly unusual, but at the moment, I actually like what Tudor has done here. Carbon fiber, of course, makes complete sense on a racing watch. There's a 42mm case, carbon composite, the tachymeter, also in carbon, but I really do like how they've also incorporated carbon into the subdials. Not only that, but on this watch, you get the yellow details around the outside, which references the race cars. But when I was looking at this watch originally, I was trying to work out what it reminds me of. And then as I looked at the racing dial around the outside, I realized it reminds me of those 1990s Schumacher Speedies. And for me, that's a good thing. I absolutely love those. And I think recently they've had a bit of a resurgence amongst collectors. And I think it's nice that this watch has a little aesthetic nod to those Speedmasters from the 90s. For me, overall, I think this is a really nice execution from Tudor. Right, from sporty to classic, I have gone for a Vacheron Traditionnelle in 38mm, as this is like the resident dress watch amongst a bunch of sports watches today. So it's 38 mil white gold, and there really isn't much here that doesn't need to be there. Of course, it's a classic dress watch from a Holy Trinity manufacturer. But that simplicity means the finishing has nowhere to hide, and I think Vacheron is very well known for extremely high levels of finishing. We've got the date at 3, and then across we have this small seconds at 9 o'clock. I like the way that the railway style minutes track around the very outside of the dial is also emulated on that small running seconds dial at 9 o'clock. Turn it over and things get even better. The automatic movement, of course, carries the Geneva seal. But whilst the finishing is awesome, one thing that really grabbed my attention on this watch immediately was the 22 karat gold rotor, because it has a very distinctive gear shape pattern. And actually, a slight tangent, I was thinking about this. What watches have the best rotors? I'm curious to get your take on this. For me, I think this Vacheron is executed really well, but I think about other brands like Patek, like Lange, who do rotors so well. Let us know in the comments what you think. But overall, this is a super nice dress watch from Vacheron with, as would be expected, amazing levels of finishing. Right, back to the sports watches. I think this might actually be one of the most tool watch-like Rolexes in the current catalog, if not the most. And slightly ironically, it's a Yacht-Master. See, when Rolex launched the Yacht-Master in 1992, the first version was full yellow gold. And the line's always been a kind of more luxurious nautical take on the professional sports watch formula, rather than a kind of stripped back, more toolless version of a sub. The excitement for this watch started well before the production watch appeared. Famous sailor Sir Ben Ainslie was spotted testing a titanium Yacht-Master prototype years before Rolex finally released this RLX titanium version in 2023. Rolex has since confirmed that Ainslie tested the watch in real sailing conditions ahead of its launch. And it completely changes the character of the Yacht-Master. And we're used to seeing this line in precious metals with shiny center links. Right here, it's completely brushed. You've got a 42mm case, full oyster bracelet made from Rolex's grade 5 RLX titanium, matte ceramic bezel, and a black dial. It's lightweight, understated, and probably about as far away from the original full gold Yacht-Master as you can get, while keeping the same basic aesthetic in place. It's also become a bit of an enigma in the collection. There was hype around it at release, but you just don't seem to see many of them around. And it does make me think whether Rolex is purposely limiting the supply of these. And then there's the price. Rolex currently lists it at £13,450 in the UK. So there's clearly a meaningful premium attached to titanium. I mean, it's still nowhere near the 30,000 plus for all gold Yacht-Master 42s, but I'm curious what everyone thinks about this. Do you think that it's a fair premium for titanium on a Rolex? Because the material makes perfect sense here, but does the price, especially when you compare it to other brands who price titanium and steel broadly in line? Let us know what you think. And finally today, the Hulk. This has to be one of the most recognizable modern Rolexes ever made. The story of the green-themed sub starts with the Kermit back in 2003. That was the 50th anniversary model. It was a Submariner black dial, green bezel. Then in 2010, Rolex turned the green all the way up. This reference, 116610LV, kept the green bezel, but added that unmistakable green sunburst dial. And it stayed in production for 10 years before being discontinued in 2020. And I think the dial is really what makes the Hulk special. Rolex has used plenty of colorful dials elsewhere, but within the steel sub, this remains an anomaly. It's the only steel Submariner reference Rolex has produced with a green dial, while both the Kermit before and the Starbucks that followed returned to black. That sunburst finish also changes massively depending on the light. Sometimes it looks black in relatively subtle light, and other times it's properly bright green. And I also think the market story is interesting on these too, because prices have remained really consistent through the watch market cycle over the past 6 years. Despite the peak we had in 2022 and the subsequent market fall post that period, the Hulk has remained consistent. I think collectors appreciate the fact that Rolex probably won't make another Submariner with a dial like this. And I think overall, I can see the values of these staying consistent or increasing over time. It really is a special release from the crown. And that's it for this week. Of course, all 5 watches are live on the site now, alongside plenty more at our new home, collecting.com. Head over, have a look, and see what else has just landed on the site. If you enjoyed the episode, give it a like and hit subscribe, as it genuinely helps us to grow the channel, and it means you won't miss the next one. We'll be back very soon with another episode of New Arrivals.